My name is Rebecca Thompson, and I have here Chris Bello, who is the host of Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you doing today, Rebecca?
Doing good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you here. So today we're going to be talking to Chris about the law of attraction on today's broadcast Tuesday. And really quick, I kind of want to go into every Friday we have Fun Fact Friday. I'm going to be talking about RPR this Friday at 10 a.m. PST for those who want to join us. So let's get started, Chris. So we're talking about the law of attraction today. So what is the law of attraction?
Yes, so thank you for asking. I know a lot of your audience probably has heard of this at some point or another, or they have some sort of idea of what the law of attraction is, but it's really powerful, I think, when you actually implement it and understand what it really is into your life. So I just have a couple notes that I want to refer to so I make sure I cover all the highlights for your audience. But basically, the law of attraction says that you will attract into your life whatever it is that you focus on. So it's kind of like the positive vibes thing, where if you're always positive, you see things from a glass half full perspective, you're going to attract more of those things into your life. Yeah. And that energy will come back to you. So if you focus on negative things, you'll get negativity in your life, right?
Yeah,
a lot of times, oh, sorry for interrupting. A lot of times we have friends, we all know the negative Nancy friends, right? Where they're like, oh, you know, this always happens to me. Nothing ever goes right. It's always happening to me and nobody else. They play the victim a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And they definitely see the glass half empty. And you also know people who are always positive. Their car gets smashed on the side of the street. They wake up and they're like, oh, they look at it from the bright side. I'm happy no one got hurt.
Right.
There's insurance to cover those types of things, right?
Yeah.
So you'll always have those types of people into your lives, but it's not until you shift your mindset to one of positivity and you start focusing on the types of things you want to attract into your life. And that's when you'll start to see really good things happening.
So for real estate, like the law of attraction, maybe like what could really go into the law of attraction for agents?
Right. So we were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on the call. I actually work in real estate as well. I work with a lot of agents, but I'm on the wholesaling side, the house buying side, typically focusing on distressed types of properties. So law of attraction in terms of real estate is going into every transaction and imagining the transaction going according to plan, closing every deal, going into that mindset. Like when I go to a house, this is my deal, this is my house, I'm buying this house, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
And even if you don't buy every house, if you don't list everything for your clients, if your agents don't get every deal, going in with that mentality and envisioning the end product.
Okay, so envisioning that end product, basically just creating that fruition with just positivity all around.
Yes, just attracting those things and your goals into your life.
Yeah.
So when things get difficult or overwhelming, especially, you know, if you've got a lot of leads that aren't going anywhere, you spent all this time and you didn't close a client, you had a really bad week, you just focus on the good in your life. You know, think about all the things that you're grateful for whenever you're becoming overwhelmed, and it'll help you see, okay, I'm not where I want to be yet, but look at all the things that I have accomplished. I may have spun my wheels with a few clients that didn't move forward with me, but I might get referrals from that because of the good vibes that I've been giving out.
Yeah, and what you put out definitely comes back. That makes so much sense. So, well, how would you recommend others to implement the law of attraction into their like daily routines?
So just getting into your daily routines and how to do it, especially if you've never done it before, if you've never heard about it before today's call. I actually recently read the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I really recommend it. And for me, I had a morning routine that I would spend about 5 minutes doing push-ups, doing meditation, writing down goals for the day, saying some affirmations. But after I read The Miracle Morning, I started implementing a 1-hour morning routine per Hal's recommendations. And this really helps to implement that into your life and really get started instead of jumping out of bed and saying, oh man, I got all these things to do, let me check my emails.
Yeah.
And stressing out. You want to make sure that, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to sit down, take a few deep breaths, do some meditation, be grateful for the things that I have in my life now, not just focus on what I don't have. and really just implement something like that every morning.
Yeah, I like that. I like starting it out in the morning and kind of like guiding the day from there, because that's important.
Yes.
I would assume like your first start of the day, write down your goals, get everything out there that, have it strategically ready for the entire day. I mean, we have 24 hours.
Exactly.
So,
We all have the same amount of time, but how we use that time determines the outcomes, right? So we need to make sure we're laser focused on what it is that we want out of life, but don't just jump straight into it when you wake up. Take some time to take a few deep breaths before getting overwhelmed and checking emails and catching up on social media and all that stuff.
nice. Okay, so that kind of goes, how does that kind of tie into the goal setting then?
Okay, so just a quick tip for your audience. This is something that I've implemented. I know a lot of people think of goals. They set New Year's resolutions every year. They go to the gym during January, and then after February, after about a month, a lot of the gym audience drops off, and a lot of people have kind of quit on their goals.
It happens. I'll be honest and say I may or may not be one of those people.
So one thing that can really help with that is when you set goals, don't just say, oh, I'm going to wait till the new year to set goals. Always set goals whenever you want to accomplish something. Just say, okay, I'm going to set a goal, put a target completion date so that it becomes real and that you can hold yourself accountable to that date, and then work backwards. So like I start off with annual goals, and then I break them down into monthly, weekly, and daily. So I know every day, what do I need to do today to get my weekly goals to therefore accomplish my monthly goals, which will ultimately get my annual goals done.
That being like the goal, your annual
Yes. And once you accomplish a goal,
get to your goal.
Goals to get to your goal. Break down your big goals to small goals.
Okay.
And how that ties in with the law of attraction and positivity and everything is when you've got a morning routine that brings it all together, you're starting off with what you're grateful for. You're visualizing yourself in achieving your dreams, achieving the outcomes that you want, and living your perfect day every day. So I visualize me smiling, going through the transaction, buying whatever amount of houses a day, getting whatever commission it is a month or whatever sales that you're trying to make. And then you jump into your day fully inspired and motivated. And you're like, in your head, you lived your perfect day, and now you go out and you make it happen.
And you do it. I love it. That's so awesome. I think I definitely need to start setting some more goals for myself. Definitely. I know agents, like you said, they, want to make sure they are able to get that house, but they have to visually see themselves getting that client to be able to really have, be able to sell that house for their client, so they have to set many, many goals that agents do.
Right.
Not only just into their clients, but really starting their daily routines, starting their goals and like marketing, branding themselves. There's so many things to really think about when it comes to just their real estate business. I think
just staying positive too.
That's probably the biggest one is starting your morning positive, and I like that meditation and a couple deep breaths. It's always good.
Really helps.
Really helps. So would you have any other tips for our audiences to step their game up? Maybe, so we have goals. So the annual, you have goals to get to your goals, but what are some other tips for our audience that you could recommend?
So of course, to step up your game, I've got plenty of tips. I would like to throw that plug alert out. Like you said, I have the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast, and that's where I'm always giving daily tips. Well, actually, I post an episode once a week every Monday, and it'll be productivity hacks, things on getting your mindset right, abundance versus scarcity mindset, seeing things as investments versus costs and things like that. But one tip that I have for your audience today that's really been huge in my life, especially in the last few months, is I'm always big on books, so I always have a lot of book recommendations. But The One Thing by Gary Keller, it's important to have a lot of goals, but you don't want to have too many goals. If you've got 15, 20 goals in one day, you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start. A lot of those aren't really important to what your ultimate big goals are. So while it is important to set a lot of goals and make sure you're focused, make sure that you're focused on the right thing. So I narrow my list of what it is that I'm focusing on, and I outsource or delegate anything that is not productive or not maybe revenue generating for me. because I found that it's distracting me. You know, we spoke a little bit before. I was a little bit of a serial entrepreneur, side hustler. I had a lot of different things
going on right now. You got podcasts, you work in real estate, you know, you've got books published, I think you said.
I have a book on Amazon. I've got a patent on a product that I'm manufacturing. So I'm trying to scale back and narrow it down a little bit. I'm trying not to do too many different things because, like they say, jack of all trades, master of none. And you want to be a master, you've got to narrow your focus and try to focus on one thing, like Gary Keller says in the book, because you'll be much more effective whenever you corral all your focus and become an expert at that one thing.
And we have so much time, so you could probably, I mean, once that goal is set, I mean, if anything, the next goal might be bigger and better.
Yeah, and it's always about self-improvement, I think, because it's easy to get caught up in all the things that you haven't accomplished, or all the goals that you haven't met, the times you've set goals and failed or quit.
We're hard on ourselves.
We are.
Yeah.
We are, especially in the real estate industry. I'm actually in the process of getting my license now, so I haven't had to deal with the retail side so much. But from the distressed property side and the investment side, I understand how hard it can be trying to get these properties at prices that work for us. And I keep hearing no, 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 no all day, looking for that one yes. And it can be very draining on your energy and your positivity. After you hear no 10 times, how do you pick up the phone and try to get a new client? You're kind of like, man, I don't want to pick up the phone, right?
Yeah, right. But once you do get that client, then you're like, okay, I can do this. Yes.
And it's a numbers game. You know, you've got to make 30 calls to get 2 people interested, to get an appointment, and then maybe you get a sale or you get a listing out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about knowing that it's just a matter of numbers and improving every single time that you do the task, and everything gets better with repetition.
Yeah, repetition is huge, and also like expanding your knowledge. So starting out your day with a podcast. I mean, entrepreneur motivation podcast. That's definitely a good one to probably start your day off. And there's, you know, books. There's so much out there for people to really be able to learn. It's really just learning how to do something better, be better. I
agree completely.
You can always improve. There's always there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, and that goes for everybody in every field. You know, I joke with my medical student friends. I'm like, gosh, I'd be scared to have you as my doctor for the first few years because, like, you're getting better and you're learning, but you might make a couple of mistakes along the way, right?
Oh gosh.
You get the right training, you get the right mentors, and it makes a huge difference in your life. And everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect on the first time you try anything new. But as you continue to chip away and practice and read, you'll get better and better. But one thing too is that there's so much knowledge out there. I always like to warn people is try not to get analysis paralysis, because people might read 5 books. They might listen to 3-hour-long podcasts at a time, but then they can never take action. So it's important to listen to one podcast episode, read a book, and then implement something that you learned from there and continue to do that.
That's, definitely some good insight there. I like it. Well, do you have any other things that you could give to our agents today? You've been really awesome. I really love everything that we've discussed. And I mean, other than your podcast.
So other than my podcast, I guess I recently read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is also by Gary Keller, who wrote The One Thing. And if your agents have not read that book, it was an amazing book. And I like to read things that are good for business in general. So regardless of whether or not your audience consists of all agents or a few other people who have other businesses as well, I took away so much from that book and understanding mindset and just abundance versus scarcity, just knowing that there's always more opportunity out there. And also knowing that you don't need to compete with everybody. It's not like one person taking a listing from you means that that's one less for you. There's plenty to go around, and you can work together. And I never burn bridges, especially in the real estate investment side. A lot of people see it as competitive, like, oh, there are competitors. They're going to try to steal the properties that we're looking at. I look at it as, hey, if you find a deal and you can't find a buyer, I'll help you find the buyer. Same goes for me. Maybe we can split the commissions on a deal. There's always room for everybody to win.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I've always
Teamwork makes the dream work. I need to get that like quoted up in my wall in here.
plaster it. It really does, though. And I think that's awesome. Well, Chris, it was really great having you today on our broadcast, excuse me. And I really hope maybe next time we could do it again, maybe.
I'd love to be on the show, yeah.
I'll definitely be listening to your podcast, though. So,
thank you. I'm excited to say I just started it last year. And this kind of goes to persistence and never giving up. I started it last October. It's the end of September here. And I just started every Monday releasing 10, 15-minute episode. I had like 10 listeners, 10 downloads a month. And just with consistency and never giving up and organic growth, it's grown to 15,000 downloads as of last month. So that's a little thank you all for listening. I know you said you subscribed yesterday. So
I just subscribed,
so
yeah,
thank you.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. You're seeing those goals really come into fruition. So that's awesome. Yeah,
it's all about those goals come to life, making them reality.
Making it a reality. Well, I hope everybody had a good, got a lot from this broadcast. I know we haven't really had any comments here, but just know that you guys are always able to comment, like us on Facebook, join us every Tuesday, 10 a.m. PST. Like I said, we're always here going live on our Facebook to be able to offer information, just really get together and make the dream work with teamwork,
Make it better. Every day, just get better. If you can do one thing better every day, you're going to be fine.
Right? Exactly. Well, thank you again. And Chris, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and everyone else. Bye.
You as well. Thanks so much.